Ho, 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 and happy Hanukkah, horror fans. Anchorpete's here, and I'm with my partner in crime, Mr. Danny, Dr. Zayas, G.O.D. Hello, sir. How you doing this holiday season?
Very good. I believe it's either the 7th or 8th night of Hanukkah tonight. I'm a confessed bad Jew, and but I got the electric menorah going over there. I got the fake Christmas tree right here to my right. So I treat both holidays with the same kind of respect. Electric menorah, fake Christmas tree. There you go.
You got a little elf on the shelf chilling with Michael Myers behind you?
Yeah, well, last year we were trying to pose the elf in like funny ways where Michael would be like killing him. We have an electric fireplace. So like one of them was like Michael Myers holding the elf by the electric fireplace, which was funny. Yeah, we also have, I don't know where he went. We had a mensch on a bench, but he fell. He's gone. Oh wait, here he is. There he is. There's the mensch on the bench. Oh. His bench is gone. So he fell.
Wow. I didn't even know those existed. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's funny. The movie that we're reviewing today, the movie that we're going to be talking about, is called The Advent Calendar. And you know my wife, Athena, she's been on our channel many times. She is obsessed with Advent calendars. So I just have one here that I just want to show. This was a gift for my daughter. It's the Nightmare Before Christmas Advent calendar. She got my son Brandon I think it's an MCU Advent calendar. She got me one also that's in our bedroom. Like we just have Advent calendar. Like that was like the gift that like we packed up and gave to like all of our relatives. Even for Hanukkah, it was like, here's an Advent calendar. She loves them. She got into them like a couple of years ago, and it's been like her gift every year. So it's kind of funny that we're talking about this movie when like every day it's like, what did you get in your Advent calendar today for like everyone in my house?
Did she make anyone like be in a car that got eaten by a dog, or like did she fix anyone's spines for like?
No, but I have had to kill 3 people already.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, cool. And they were close loved ones?
A couple and a few enemies from work.
Yes.
Yeah. So mild spoiler for the film we're about to talk about. But
yes. And so we should just preface this. We are talking about the movie The Advent Calendar. It just premiered on Shudder this week, and Danny and I watched it. This is part 1 of our Unholy Holidays month. And so we are doing week by week. We're doing Advent Calendar today. Then we're going to be covering Rosemary's Baby. Then we're covering The Exorcist, and we're capping it all off with the birth of our unholy lord, The Omen. So, these are horror classics. And Danny, out of those 3 classics, which ones do you think I've not seen?
Knowing you, I'm going to go with, I think you've seen, I'm going to go with you having seen The Exorcist because if it's just historical value. So I'll say you're batting 1 out of 3.
Yes, you are absolutely correct. I have read the book of Rosemary's Baby, weirdly enough, but then I have not seen the movie. And then I have not seen The Omen. And I know that you always talk highly of The Omen, so.
The Omen was the first movie I ever saw that I will admit I was far too young to be watching. And it scared me out of the room. And aside from like the miniseries of It from 1990, The Omen was like the scariest thing that I had ever seen. And it holds up to me. I'll die on the hill that it's a scarier and better movie than The Exorcist, even though I know that's a vastly unpopular opinion. And that's with no disrespect to The Exorcist, which is an amazing horror film. Rosemary's Baby to me is very good. I haven't seen it in years, so I'm really excited to revisit it. I do remember it feeling very long, but I was also younger. So maybe now that I'm older and I'm married and I have kids of my own, it'll feel a little bit different. That's what I'm hoping. But yeah, I thought it was kind of like fun that we'd be doing the Unholy Trilogy during holiday season.
Yeah. Very good call, man. Last year we had our, holiday horror theme and we did Krampus and stuff like that. I really like this idea of doing these movies that are about like sort of like, you know, demons or like evil children or possessed children. So I think that was a great idea. This movie, the Advent Calendar, you know, obviously it just came out here in the States, and it's not like one of these classics, these horror classics. But with that being said, I think that's still worth talking about now because, I mean, it's all about this season, right? And this is right at the beginning of the season. And I got to say that I actually really enjoyed this movie. I thought that it was a real good treat. You know, with Shudder, they have a lot of quality on there. Every so often there's a dud that, you know, we might talk about. But I think in this case, I think this was an enjoyable movie. What do you think, man?
I really like this movie. When it comes to foreign horror films, I'm a huge advocate. I like to, I don't even know if it's tease people or troll people, but I just like to use the expression, if you can read, you can watch foreign horror or foreign films in general. I know a lot of people made like a big deal about Parasite winning Best Picture a couple of years ago. It was the best goddamn picture that year. It's one of my favorite movies I've ever seen. And like foreign films, especially with horror, foreign films can get around so many of the ratings issues that we have here in America, where you don't want to be too bloody or too offensive or too grotesque, or because you'll get an R rating and you won't, or an NC-17, and you won't be able to, you know, make money in the theaters. Foreign films care more about making great movies, regardless of the amount of sexuality or violence or gore. And this movie, it just fit in perfectly with what I love about foreign horror films. Like, I don't know how this would really work if this was an American film. I feel like the Advent Calendar as an American movie would probably be like a romantic comedy.
Oh, shit. Well, I'm really glad that you brought that up, because besides them kind of not having to deal with the rating system that we have here, there's also the issue of, like, we know the way stories are told in America, and when we expect certain things to happen. And with a foreign film, there's certain beats that might happen in a story like way earlier than you'd expect them to happen. They might happen way later. There might be a twist that you weren't even thinking of at all. And I got to say that with this movie, there were a few moments that, like, I just was not expecting. And, you know, you make a joke about saying, like, it might have been a romantic comedy in the U.S., right? I think that if this was a movie that was made in the United States, you'd have, like, younger leads, and it would just be that there'd be annoying people that this woman would encounter, and it'd be very, like, cheesy kind of Final Destination deaths, getting rid of random people that annoyed her.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Like, I can totally see this being Final Destination-ish.
Yes.
Or, you know what? What's funny is the movie that I wrote down is like, this is a Christmas horror-themed version of Jumanji almost. Because...
Oh, that's good.
Because essentially, like, Jumanji is, once you start the game, you have to follow the rules, and if you don't finish the game or if you don't complete the move, shit starts happening to you. But it's in a fun, like, adventure movie setting. Here, It's the same thing. It's this ancient, you know, box of wood, and if you don't follow the rules, you know, shit starts to happen. And yeah, I thought, I was like, I feel like I'm watching Jumanji, but from a French horror point of view. And I just want to point out, like, the French, I mean, they've made some of the, like, when it comes to French horror, they make some of the most brutal, like, France is a country, like, known for, like, love and passion and all these things. Their horror movies are off the freaking wall. Like, I remember it was the early 2000s when they had, I think it's called, like, the French extremist movement with High Tension, Martyrs, Frontiers. You want to see a Christmas horror movie? You got to check out the original Inside, about a pregnant woman who gets stalked by this scissor wielding maniac.
Yeah.
On Christmas, and it's like, you do not expect these movies to come from France. And this movie, I think, fits in kind of nicely with that group. It's not as extreme, but it definitely has those moments where you're like, oh, like
Yes.
you can't believe certain things are happening. Like,
Yeah, Danny, I haven't seen a lot of movies, horror movies compared to you, right? But I actually have seen Inside, and that was very difficult for me to watch. I haven't seen Frontiers, and I have seen High Tension. I actually really love High Tension. That's actually one of my favorite horror movies. But yeah, I wouldn't say that this movie is as severe as Inside or High Tension, but there were a couple of moments that were pretty intense, I gotta say.
yeah.
So this director, right? You were saying that he hasn't really made anything like a feature except for this, right?
I think on IMDb he only had 2 other credits, and the last thing he did was a short film. So it feels like it's his first major film, especially going out, being a French film, to be released on Shudder, which in America, it definitely his first movie to get like out there. And Patrick Ridremont,
Yes.
you're gonna have 2 guys from New York, born in New York, one in New York, one in Texas, trying to pronounce French names. It's gonna happen. But Patrick Ridremont, I thought he did a tremendous job here. I thought it was very, especially for a guy who doesn't have a lot of, especially according to IMDb, doesn't have a lot of films to his belt. This was very good.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about a movie that it kind of reminds me of too. They just showed it on the last drive-in like last season. I think it was for a Christmas special. It was a foreign film. Was it a French film? The one where it was like the guy was like a crazy Santa? What is that movie?
Dial Code Santa Claus?
Yeah, is that French? Or was that German? Yeah,
French.
yeah. It kind of reminded me of that in terms of like, you got the holiday horror going on, and it wasn't like over the top crazy gore, but there still was some intense imagery.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this guy did a great job. I'm going to try to pronounce some of the people's names too. I actually was a big fan of the main actress. Let me just pull her up. Here, watch this. I'm going to butcher her name, right? Just as a couple of people got butchered in this movie. Eugénie Derouand. That's what my French accent.
I would have. Yeah, I think Eugénie Derouand. We apologize, France.
Sorry, France.
Yeah, I feel like if I tried to pronounce the names accurately, I would actually come across worse because I would end up sounding like I was be like, yeah, let me. Yeah, Eugénie Derouand, and that's what it sounds like when I try to do actually pronounce French names, and then I realize that sounds worse. So let me just butcher them in New York accent English, and they'll understand, and at least they won't be like that guy's just mocking French accents, which I swear I'm not. That's just how it comes out.
Well, thankfully, by the graces of God, her name is just Ava in the movie, so that's easy to pronounce. You got Ava, you got her friend Sophie, who gives her the advent calendar, and then you have William. We'll get to him in a little bit, but from this point on, I think Danny and I are going to be talking spoilers about this movie. What's interesting about this movie is that it's very complex, even though the premise is very simple. The premise is, this woman is given a advent calendar. Every day she opens it, there is some kind of new magical twist to it. And a lot of times it can be deadly, it can hurt her life, it can benefit her life. But the way that each of the days work is actually pretty complicated. And I thought that was real interesting. It reminded me of Lock and Key. Have you watched that show on Netflix?
I haven't, but I know you're a big fan of it. You've mentioned it before. It's like this just the never-ending list of shows I need to watch.
Yeah, it's based on a comic that's written by Joe Hill, Stephen King's son. And Joe Hill's like my favorite writer. I strongly recommend reading the comic of Lock and Key because I feel like it's kind of superior to the Netflix show. However, this reminded me of Lock and Key because in that comic, in the show, there's keys that give you special powers, and you don't know how they work. You just find a key, you open a door, and then there's some kind of special power. With this, it's like every day there's a new kind of trick. And off the top of the bat, I was going to ask you, like, is there any day that you thought was the most interesting or the coolest one out of the days? And you don't have to tell me the number of the day, just what the candy does.
I mean, in terms of like varying levels of like horrificness, if we're talking spoiler territory,
yes.
I mean, I've come to a point now in a horror movie where I don't want there to be pets involved. I just want these people to live alone because and when she turns the knife around and you see the imprint of like it looks like a dog laying on its back, and I just went, we've reached that part of it. Okay. And then in my head, I'm just going, just don't show it. And to the movie's credit, they don't show it. So if you're somebody who's like, oh, they kill an animal, I'm not watching this movie. Nothing is done on screen. Is it possible to have a tasteful animal death in a movie? But they don't show it on screen, so you don't have to worry. But yes, that's just for me. It's like one of those things where it's like the dog is there, and you're just sitting there going, oh God, eventually it's going to come to the dog. And then of course it does. So
yes.
that was the worst. Although, I don't want to jump to the end, but I was really fascinated by the whole idea of like, there were some of the things in the advent calendar that came up over and over again.
Yes.
And the one thing in particular, so let's just say this off the bat, the main character in this movie, Eva, she's a paraplegic. She was in a car accident that we find out her best friend caused. She was a dancer. She was a pretty accomplished dancer. And now she's confined to a wheelchair. And she's a paraplegic. And so I think it's 3 or 4 different days in the advent calendar are these. Every day in the advent calendar, there's like a piece of candy that she has to eat according to the rules. And 4 of them are like these little white figurines that she eats. And every time she eats one, she can start to walk a little bit more. At first, it's like a few steps, and she's found like outside of her apartment. Nobody knows how she got there because her chair is missing. And then eventually at the end, I don't want to jump all the way to the end, but it raises a very, like, I loved the ending. I really did. I thought the ending was like I thought this was a movie where I was like, I really like it. And then the ending happened, and I was like, okay, now I think I love it because I really think they hit the ending perfectly.
Yes.
And what I don't know, we could talk about that in a few minutes, but yeah, for me, it was either the dog one or the walking ones.
Yeah. I guess I'm a little sadistic. There's this one woman that eventually ends up working with Eva, and she replaces Eva. Eva loses her job because of the candy from the advent calendar at one point, and this woman just had no sympathy for her. And at one point, she opens up the advent calendar, and there's this like doll, looks like a Barbie doll, and Eva kind of understands that it's like a voodoo doll essentially, and she pulls the hair out. Then this woman's taking a bath, and then her hair starts coming out in clumps. Then she takes little tweezers, which are also in the advent calendar, and pulls off the doll's nails. This woman's toenail comes off, and that might have been the most disturbing part in the movie. And so it was interesting because for a lot of the movie, you feel bad for Eva because she's like talked down to by her boss, and you could tell that like her life is a shell of what she used to be when she was a dancer when she was younger, before the accident. And throughout the movie, I mean, she's this beautiful woman, and you see men hit on her and stuff, but she wants nothing to do with them because the lower half of her body doesn't work. I mean, that's kind of a weird way to put that, but like she just feels like it wouldn't work with another person, right? She can't have intimacy, and you feel bad for her, but as the movie goes on, she starts to become a little evil herself, and I like that. There's different things that happens. There's repercussions, and it was interesting because every single day there's a different candy. And you're like, wow, this might take a while because there's like 24 days in the Advent season. But then she takes this one candy that like essentially makes her like not know what happened for like 4 days, right?
Yeah, yeah. It was interesting, like the way the movie keeps putting the numbers up on the screen,
Right, right.
which helps you as the viewer follow along with where she's at, but you don't necessarily see every single day. And to your point, like there's the first like 30 to 40 minutes of the movie, you are very sympathetic to her.
Yeah.
There's this like real good looking guy at the pool who like is trying to flirt with her, and then she like, you know, says, okay, you want to flirt with me, go get my wheelchair.
Right,
And he's like, and like he doesn't know how to react to that, and she just rolls off, and then she's sexually assaulted by this like asshole who's driving her home. And so
his
like
name was Boris.
Yeah, and when the night the advent calendar popped, the advent calendar, the way it looks like this old fashioned wooden box that opens up, very beautiful carved, and every night at midnight there's like this masked figure that pops up to signify it's time to open your candy.
Yes.
And you find out later on, obviously, that that's like the demon or whatever it is that is like possessing this advent calendar.
Yeah.
But like with this guy who like assaults her in the car, she opens up the advent calendar that night and there's a car, like a small little almost matchbox car. So she throws it on the ground and her dog starts biting it and ripping it, and the guy ends up getting crushed inside of his car. And you're like, you know what? I don't give a shit that he died. Good for her.
Right.
And you're like, she didn't kill him. She just gave the car to her dog. And then it's, you know, the same thing with her boss, and who like, you know, she's kind of discovering what's happening, you know, and then you start to feel nice things for her because that one of the candies is a little heart, and she drops it into this guy who she keeps seeing at the park. She drops it into his coffee, and then he comes over and they start a very flirtatious relationship, and you're like, oh, okay, this is not going to end well, but for now it's okay. And
yeah. It does not end well.
Yeah, Eugénie Derouand, she did a phenomenal job, you know, playing this character. And I thought that her friend Sophie was also very good. Honorine Magnier, probably.
I'm not even going to touch her, man.
Yeah, I thought she was good. You know, she had that kind of like, you know, you find out later in the movie that she was actually driving the car that caused the accident that paralyzed Eva. So you think at first she's just a devoted friend, but it's to the point where like later on in the movie, she's actually like, yeah, you know, I feel so sorry for what I did, that like, if you eat this candy and it forces me to die, I'm okay with it. And you're like, damn. But then like, and yeah, so, you know, I thought the acting in it was really good from everybody. I thought it was just a really well-made movie.
Yeah. And there's a whole nother aspect too that you didn't mention yet, which was that her father also, you know, he has like Alzheimer's, right? And so he just has like forgotten who she is, and she's able to give him candy too. So it's that kind of that classic story of, oh, this person that's down on their luck, this person that is suffering every single day, they're given magic, and the magic is able to make their life better. But of course, it comes with a price. And you know, you kind of go back and forth thinking, is it the kind of thing where she's going to maybe be able to get out of it? Because one thing that is a little, I wouldn't say misleading, but it makes you sort of second guess what's going to happen, is that the movie starts out with a video recording of her talking about the rules of the Advent calendar. And so the whole time you're sitting there remembering that video and you're thinking, okay, well, is she going to live? Is she going to like try to save the next person after her? Is she going to die? What happens? And I think the way that they resolved it ultimately was good. But it's that kind of story where it's like, is she going to become corrupted by this thing? Is something horrible going to happen to her? And it does mess up her life, the advent calendar, but it also kind of gives justice to these kind of shitty people that mistreat her too, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's satisfying, but then eventually she does have to kind of sacrifice people that she cares about, right? Because that father, that Alzheimer's father with Alzheimer's, she has to shoot him eventually at one point too.
Yeah, that was another scene that was like, you know, the idea that you can give the candies to other people. And like, I thought the only issue I had with the movie was that it plays a little loosey goosey with its own rules. And I was a little unclear of like, so there's the 3 rules, like, you know, you have to follow the rules. You have to eat the candy every day, you know, like, or else, and like everything is like, or else we'll kill you. But then like the rules get broken and she never dies. It's like other people. So like, there's one thing in the advent calendar that it's a little blue. I mean, there's like a shameless plug for like, oh God, I forgot the name of the pills for you know who. But yeah, Viagra. It's like this little blue piece of candy with a dick on it, and Sophie gives it to her boyfriend at one point. So Eva's friend gives it to her boyfriend.
Yes,
and you're just like, wait, so she didn't eat that one? What?
Yeah, what would happen there, man?
Yeah, there were a few like that with like, you know, the dad. And I thought that was, but like, that was actually like a really touching scene. Like she gives her dad the candy one day and his Alzheimer's clears up and he's able to have a lucid conversation with her. And I thought that was really like sweet and like meaningful, you know, like, again, if this movie was made in America, I feel like it would fit in with like Truth or Dare, you know, like where like, somebody would walk in to a room and be like, I have a great idea for a horror movie. Okay, here it is. Evil advent calendar. And they'd be like, that's great. Go write it. And, and it would be like, you know, Ouija or Truth or Dare, where you just pick random game or random, you know, thing that is associated with holiday, make it evil, 90 minutes, you know, sell a bunch of tickets to 14-year-old horror movie fans, and you're good. This, as a foreign film, is able to like actually have like meaningful things to say about handicapped people, about Alzheimer's and like the treatment of the elderly and sexual assault and all of these topics that wouldn't, I cannot imagine that in an American remake of this movie, those things would be included, or those things might be there superficially just to move the plot, but they wouldn't be given the time that the director gives here, which is just another reason to watch foreign films.
Yeah, man. Very, very well put. Yeah. And before, when you were asking about like she opens up the door and there's this sort of demonic Viagra, the thing is that it's like, obviously there's all these random candies and random items in this advent calendar, but it's clear that like each day serves a new purpose for her, right? So like, I'm sure that if someone else gets that advent calendar, it's going to have a whole bunch of different things in it and it's going to serve their purposes.
Of course.
We see that after she's done with the advent season, one of the cool aspects of it was that you go through the whole process and then on the last day you eat the last candy and then it resets to where the advent calendars thing never happened. And you won't even remember that it happened. So all the people that died, you're not going to remember. And they're going to be alive, right? And so there was this really cool sequence where she was given a painting right inside the calendar. And then she goes and she brings it to this artist, this German artist, and he's blind. He's been blind for 5 years. But it turns out that he got the advent calendar. So like the calendar itself, even though it has the mechanics of a, advent calendar for Christmas time, it's really just about, empowering these unfortunate people, right? These people that had some kind of gift and then they lost it.
Yeah.
And their life tragedy.
And then you start to put it together in your head that this guy, one of the candies must have given him his vision back, and but he had to kill his wife and kid, and then he was able to paint the painting of the advent calendar. But then at the end, he decided to go back and be blind, but have his wife and then that leads us to the ending, which I guess we can talk about now. Where
Please.
So the guy who flirted with her at the pool at the very beginning of the movie, she invites him over, and they just have like sex. And he's like, wow, why'd you just randomly call me over? And she's like, well, in about 10 minutes, I'm going to lose control of my body again. Things are going to reset and I'm going to be a paraplegic. So I just wanted to like feel the intimacy before I don't have it anymore. And then after midnight, she has that 24th piece of candy or that she's about to eat. And he realizes the box opened. Like the final box is opened, which means the rules are now off. Like you don't have to eat the candy. You got to that point. It's like the game ends, or the advent calendar ends with the opening of door 24. She has it. So if she wants, she can now just live this life. The paraplegic, the wheelchair, everything goes away. Yes, she has to now live with the guilt that she murdered a bunch of people, including her father. Her best friend is dead. She's probably going to get arrested because all the dead people tie back to her at some point.
Yeah.
And she's like on the roof, and she's holding the piece of candy. And it's like, what do you do? What do you do? What is she going to do? And then the movie kind of leaves it ambiguous, where she just kind of screams and it goes black. And then, like, right when you think, oh, that's awesome, you find somebody, this dad carrying a little baby, runs into her apartment and is banging on the door being like, I found your cell phone video. I'm the next person with the advent calendar. I need you to help me. So she's now become the person. So it still kind of leaves it ambiguous, because part of me thinks, well, she must have taken the candy because it reset everything, and now the advent calendar goes to somebody else, because that guy took the advent calendar and threw it off of the roof, seemingly destroying it. But then there's also part of me that's like, well, there was a masked demon with demon hands who lives in that calendar. So if he doesn't want the advent calendar to break, he's just going to ensure, like at the end of Jumanji, they throw the board in the river, and then the movie Jumanji ends with the original now, not the remakes with The Rock, ends with kids playing on the beach, and they hear boom, 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 and there it is. So it's like, these kind of like horror movie gadgets, they go on, they always go on. So
yeah, I totally think that demon in the advent calendar would have like saved it, because there were moments in the movie where, like, at one point, her, like, the woman that's watching over the dad, was it like her mother-in-law, or was it just like a woman watching?
Her stepmom, I think.
Stepmom, right? That's what I meant, stepmom. Like, she threw it in the fire, and then the demon shows up and kills her. I think that, like, the guy William at one point, who was like her romantic interest, he throws it in the water, and then the demon drowns him, and then it comes out again, right?
I love that scene where the demon comes out of the water. That reminded me of Stellan Skarsgård's guy in Dune, where he has that, and he has that like bottom part that just looks like he's connected to like the legs of an octopus or something. Yeah.
It is. Hold on one second, because my daughter is playing a Frozen thing over here, and we're gonna get copyright restricted. Just hold on one second. Clementine. Sorry about that. That's our video will get blocked by YouTube.
All right, yeah. I didn't even hear it, but all right, no problem.
Yeah. So okay. Here's a little clarity. This is how much of a nerd I am. The octopus thing with the Baron, he's got these things on his spine because he's so fat. These repulsor things help lift him up. What with the stuff that's just hanging from, that's just his clothes because he's just a big fat guy wearing a muumuu. But yeah,
you are a Dune guy, so I figured you would correct me. But he did have that look. The demon in Advent Calendar had that look.
Yeah, and it was very well done. Like, it's just creepy, and I don't know if we've mentioned this, but like the Advent Calendar itself is German, right? And so every time the thing pops out of the calendar, it says in this German voice, like, new day or whatever, but it's like, it's got that German language. And it's creepy to begin with. But there was one shot in the movie with the demon in the Advent Calendar that reminded me of Michael Myers, which is like, we talked about in the original Halloween, there's that one shot where his mask just appears like
in the car.
Yeah, I believe so. Yes, in the car with her. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good scene. I thought, you could tell that this guy knew what he was doing. This is actually like the last, I think, 3 horror movies now that I've seen have all been French and have all been foreign horror films. And 2 of the 3 have been French. And I'm like, they're all going to be on my top horror movie list when we do that early next year.
Was that Vigil? Was that one of them?
Which one?
Vigil?
Oh, the Vigil is the Vigil. Actually, I forgot about the Vigil. The Vigil is going to be on the list too. That's American. That was made actually in, I think, Borough Park, it's set in Borough Park in Brooklyn.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
So then, what was the other?
Also on Shudder, since we're talking about a Shudder movie, I mean, The Medium from Thailand is probably the scariest movie I saw this year. Just a fantastic possession style movie. It's not found footage, but it's film documentary style. So I don't know how they differentiate like documentary style from found footage, but it's that type of movie, but possession. Whew. Yeah, great movie. And then the other one is Titan, which I rented on Vudu, and I'm still recovering from that one. That's just one of the most mind-blowing movies I've seen in a long time.
Wait. You said Teton. Is that the way you're supposed to pronounce that movie? Titan? You're supposed to say Teton?
It's French. I don't know. I'm not sure. Titane.
Do they say the word in the movie?
I mean, I don't remember if they specifically say, like, they don't just announce it, but
yeah.
It's the French word for, I think, titanium, right? Or like,
yeah, that's what I think. I read the synopsis of that movie, and that just sounds fucking bonkers.
Did you ever see the is it Cronenberg? Crash?
I did not see Crash, but I know what you're talking about there, too.
Okay, because it's basically if Crash was like a Hellraiser-style body horror film. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So there you go. It is off the wall. Yeah.
Okay,
just fantastic. Watch foreign horror. Can't say it enough times.
All right, well, that's one thing I have to do because we do have our best of 2021 video coming up. So there's a lot of horror I have to watch. But this movie might get on my list. I really, really enjoyed this movie.
I definitely enjoyed it, yeah.
I have to see the competition. I don't know if there's anything that's going to knock it out of the top 10. But I just thought it was well made. It wasn't like very scary, I wouldn't say, but it told a good story. And it's an age-old story of, like I said, like a person that has no power, they're given magical power, and like does it corrupt them. And I love that type of story. So
yeah. I agree with you. I think it's definitely going to be in my top 10 this year. It's just one of these movies that, I always am just very thankful to Shudder because it's a French-Belgian production with French subtitles. Never would have heard of this movie. and it just shows up on Shudder on December 3rd, a couple days ago. And I'm like, oh, okay. We're talking about doing holiday themed horror movies. Here we go. Here's a good way to get us started. And that's why Shudder is great. And they're not paying us to say that. We just genuinely love them as a service. Speaking of that, I know Joe Bob is coming back. Is it next Friday?
Oh, I didn't even know. Okay. What?
Yeah, it's either next Friday is the 10th. So I think it might be the 17th. Friday the 17th.
Okay.
If I'm wrong about that, it's the 10th because they wouldn't be doing it on Christmas Eve. But it's Joe Bob's, I think it's like Joe Bob Ruins Christmas. It's like another like mini marathon or just like a last drive-in episode where they're going to do maybe they'll put this on there. Who knows? I mean, this is holiday themed. That would be kind of fun.
Yeah, hell yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah. I really love that movie that I mentioned before that you I totally forgot the title of though. What did they
Dial Code Santa Claus it's called. It has like 8 names. It's like Deadly Games or Dial Code Santa Claus.
Right, and it came out like right before Home Alone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was actually the first foreign film that Charlotte watched because Charlotte watched that episode of Last Drive-In with me. And there wasn't much speaking in the movie, but that kid had like the room that never ended. And there was like, it looked like he lived in RFAO Schwartz. What was the name of that big toy store?
FAO Schwartz. Yes.
FAO Schwartz. Yeah. It looked like he lived there. And it was just like, this is insane. I loved it. It was great.
Yeah. It was kind of like big. It was kind of like where you had the toys. Yeah. That's awesome, man. So I dug this movie, and I'm glad that you and I got to watch it. Thank you to Shudder. I think the next 2 movies are not necessarily. I don't think any of them are on Shudder, right? As far as the Omen
the Unholy Trinity.
Yeah,
I don't think so. But I mean, I definitely I have The Exorcist behind me on Blu-ray. I have The Omen somewhere up there in the DVDs. I'm going to try to get Charlotte to watch The Omen, but I think she's heard me. She actually just came out of the kitchen that way. No, that way. Here she comes. She heard me say the words The Omen, and she came out, and now she's shaking her head at me going, absolutely not. She's heard me talk about it so much that in her head, it's already too scary for her, which is baloney because she's already seen The Exorcist. So,
yeah. Charlotte, what do you think of The Exorcist?
Yeah.
So I could hear him. What?
What did you think of The Exorcist?
Oh, no. Just no.
Just no.
No to The Exorcist too? Okay.
Well, no, you thought it was good, but
I thought it was good, but just too good.
Too scary, right?
Too
scary.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the movies where it ended, and then she had like her cool down period after really scary horror movies is like, and then she just starts crying.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah,
I never cried during the movie.
No, she didn't cry during the movie. It was like after she was just like, it's over, I can breathe, and now yeah.
Because once you know it's over, you know it's time for bed.
So, I definitely want her to eventually watch The Omen. Maybe she'll peek in at the beginning, and I'll tell her she's allowed to leave whenever she's too scared.
There you go. And one of her Hanukkah gifts could be childhood trauma. Enjoy.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, right under the tree over there.
Yeah, just to tell Charlotte, or don't have to bring her back or anything like that. But The Exorcist, I think, is one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. I've seen it multiple times.
I remember my dad telling me stories about like him seeing it in the theater and people like running from the theater, screaming and throwing up into garbage cans, and like I lived for an experience like that. The best I ever saw movie theater experience was, did you see that crazy movie Mother? Darren Aronofsky's movie?
No. I don't want to see that. I know what happens.
I didn't love it, but
the
movie theater experience of that, at one point, my friend and I thought that there was a leak in the theater. It turned out a guy got so mad that he threw his full soda from the back of the theater and it hit the screen. because he was so angry, and like his girlfriend was like, "Let's go," and they like stormed out of the movie, and like people were just like getting up and my buddy and I were like, "This is better than the movie." Like,
right. That's just like Titan, or however you called it before, Titan, or whatever the hell you said. Like, where I know the synopsis, I read it, and I was like, holy shit, I don't want to fucking see that. I think that actually kind of sounds worse than what you were saying about Titan or Teton or whatever. That movie. I know which scene you're talking about too. That probably made the guy throw his soda.
Yeah,
like,
of course you do. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, it sounds like we're super excited about talking about like these fucking, deprived, horrible Satan movies. And so what a perfect time at Christmas time to talk about these things that make you feel filthy inside. But that's, I think, a wrap on Advent Calendar, unless you had anything else you wanted to say.
Just go watch it. It's really good. Hopefully if you did want to watch it, you turn this off, and then you'll tune back in after you watch it and leave a comment. Let us know what you thought. I definitely thought it was one of the better horror films I've seen this year. I'm trying to keep like a running list of the ones I haven't seen so that I can like really flood myself with like 2021 horror for this last 25 or 26 days of the year.
Oh, it's the final countdown. Yeah, man. Yeah. I there's so much I have to watch, and we're going to be just pumping out reviews. I'm sure Danny will put up reviews of things that he watches along the way. And, we only have, like you said, a couple more, like you said, 25 more days, or 25, 26 more days. So if you guys have not subscribed to the Lastercast, please do. If you're listening at home on your podcast, wait, that's not right. If you're just listening to us on a podcast, we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Tell your friends. We just turned on just put up a Instagram account for the Lastercast. So make sure you follow us on Instagram. It's just the Lastercast. And Danny and I are here every week. Danny's constantly putting out content. And like once a week, we have a video just like this too. So thank you so much for watching. And we will see you next week for Rosemary's Baby. See ya.